Across the United States right now, a major shift is happening behind the scenes of everyday products. One that most consumers don't see but businesses feel deeply. Materials that once traveled across oceans, crossed borders, and moved through layers of international suppliers are now being sourced much closer to home. Companies are rethinking where their raw materials come from, and many are choosing to bring sourcing back to North America. This new push for local sourcing isn't just a trend, it's a fundamental change in how American businesses operate. To understand why this shift is happening, you have to go back to the supply chain disruptions of the last few years. Delays at ports, shipping backlogs, factory shutdowns overseas, and long transit times revealed how fragile global sourcing had become. Businesses that relied on international suppliers suddenly faced shortages, unpredictable delivery dates, and skyrocketing freight costs. They learned the hard way that a single link in a long supply chain can break the entire system. Local sourcing solves a big part of that problem. It shortens the chain, it reduces uncertainty, and it gives companies more control. A major driver behind the move toward local sourcing is speed. When materials come from halfway around the world, companies are forced to forecast months in advance. They have to guess what demand will look like and hope they ordered correctly. But when materials come from within the US or nearby regions, lead times shrink dramatically. Businesses can restock faster, adjust more easily to demand changes, and avoid the expensive delays that come with overseas shipments. Speed has become a competitive advantage, and local sourcing delivers it. Cost stability is another reason this shift is accelerating. Even when international sourcing is cheaper on paper, the hidden costs, fuel surcharges, currency fluctuations, customs fees, unexpected delays, add up quickly. Local sourcing offers more predictable pricing, transportation costs are lower, delivery schedules are more reliable. Companies don't have to worry about political disruptions, tariffs, or sudden shipping spikes. In a business environment where financial predictability matters more than ever, stable supply chains are incredibly valuable. Another key factor is supply chain resilience. Companies learned that having suppliers concentrated in one region of the world is risky. A natural disaster, a factory shutdown, or a geopolitical conflict can halt production entirely. To avoid these disruptions, businesses are diversifying their supplier base and choosing locations closer to their target markets. Local sourcing doesn't just reduce risk, it spreads it out. Companies can respond more quickly when challenges arise. There's also a growing emphasis on quality control. When materials are sourced locally, companies can visit suppliers more frequently, inspect facilities, and ensure standards are being met. It's easier to build strong relationships with domestic suppliers. Communication is clearer. Production issues get resolved faster. This level of oversight is much harder when suppliers are thousands of miles away. For industries where reliability and consistency matter, like manufacturing, food production, medical equipment, and construction, local sourcing creates peace of mind. Another major influence behind the local sourcing movement is sustainability. Long-distance shipping contributes significantly to carbon emissions. Companies that want to reduce their environmental footprint are looking for ways to shorten transportation routes. Local sourcing aligns with sustainability goals by minimizing fuel usage, reducing packaging waste, and supporting circular supply systems. This shift also appeals to consumers who prefer products made with domestic materials or sourced responsibly. Political and regulatory factors are also at play. The US has introduced incentives for domestic manufacturing, renewable energy production, advanced materials, and supply chain reconstruction. These policies are encouraging companies to build or expand supplier networks within the country. At the same time, rising global tension and uncertain trade relationships are pushing businesses to reduce reliance on unstable or unpredictable regions. The political environment is making local sourcing not just preferable, but strategic. Another interesting part of this shift is the role of technology. Advancements in automation, robotics, and digital manufacturing make local production more cost-competitive. When machines and software reduce labor costs, the price difference between domestic and overseas materials narrows. Companies can now produce or source more materials locally without significantly increasing expenses. Technology has made local sourcing financially viable in industries where it once seemed impossible. Businesses are also embracing local sourcing because it strengthens brand reputation. Consumers increasingly want to know where products come from. Labels that say "Made in America" or "locally sourced materials" carry weight. They communicate trust, quality, and responsibility. Companies that highlight domestic sourcing often see improved customer loyalty and stronger market positioning. Local sourcing becomes part of the brand story, a point of pride that resonates with shoppers. Labor stability is another factor. Overseas suppliers may face strikes, workforce shortages, or inconsistent working conditions. Domestic suppliers often have stronger labor protections, more predictable production environments, and better long-term stability. This reduces risk for companies that depend on consistent output. This trend is impacting nearly every sector. Retailers sourcing packaging locally, food brands partnering with domestic farms, manufacturers switching to US-based component suppliers, construction companies buying materials from regional producers. Even high-tech industries, like electric vehicle manufacturing and battery production, are building domestic supply chains to reduce reliance on global sources. As more companies adopt this strategy, something powerful happens. Entire local ecosystems begin to grow. New suppliers emerge, existing factories expand. Regional hubs develop around materials like steel, chemicals, textiles, and components. This creates jobs, strengthens local economies, and supports long-term industrial growth. Local sourcing isn't just benefiting businesses, it's reshaping the economic landscape. But perhaps the biggest reason companies are moving materials closer to home is long-term stability. In unpredictable markets, stability becomes a strategic advantage. Local sourcing gives businesses more reliable partners, faster turnaround times, fewer disruptions, and stronger control over production. And as companies think beyond the next quarter and plan for the next decade, that stability becomes priceless. The new push for local sourcing is changing how American businesses operate. It reflects a shift away from maximizing short-term cost savings and toward building long-term resilience. It's a recognition that the cheapest option isn't always the smartest. And it's a sign that in an era defined by global uncertainty, bringing supply chains closer to home may be one of the most powerful business strategies of the decade.